Hi guys, so as you can see, somewhere a bit different here. We're planning on going out, but I thought I might as well wait till another day to go out and let this snow pass. It's quite cold and fishing won't be very good anyway. So this is all about my December vlog. I'm going to give you a roundup of what I've been up to this month. And I've got a lot going on, to be fair, a lot of matches that I've fished, been out pleasuring a few times, so I thought I'd give you a catch up. So it all started after lockdown lifted, we were allowed to go on matches, thank God for that. So I've gone up to Oaks, somewhere local, spent quite a lot of time up there, and it's a place where I usually go in winter anyway. So my first match back, I've drawn peg 1 on willows. It used to be an out and out flyer, when all skimmers were feeding, it used to be the peg, but in the last couple of years it's still a decent peg, I won't complaining about it at all, but I've never fished it, so it was one of them where I'll go in not really knowing what to expect. And when you do pull out these decent pegs and there's a lot of pressure on you, sometimes you look at a peg and you don't know where to start. This one, as you can see from the picture that we've inserted, it is a massive peg, and just knowing where to sit down to start with can be a bit daunting. So I spoke to Mark before I got to my peg, and he gave me a little bit of information. So it used to, like I say, catch a lot of skimmers, and there's some big perch in there, but last few months it hasn't been real, or last few years even, it's not been really known for that. So I've put a couple of lines in, put a long line in at 13 and 14 and a half, and then there's an aerator to my left, I put a line there as well. And to be honest, I've had a steady day, not caught up big, caught a lot of little roach, but as I was looking round there wasn't really much going on, so I thought if I can just keep catching a few fish, putting them in my net, you're always onto a winner. Places like this time of year, if you're catching fish, you've just got to stay catching. Even though they were smaller than what I wanted, I did try a few other lines, caught a few short, but it wasn't as fast, so I thought I've got to keep going, putting them in net. So that's what I've done. In the last 15-20 minutes or so, I've had a nice decent perch, which has boosted me up, which has given me some vital points in the end. So I've weighed 16 pounds something, which was enough for the all important section win. It's a league match, I think it's over 7 rounds, and this was the first one, so to get off to a good start is always good. Won my section and I was 3rd overall in the match as well, which is always a bonus. After that I moved on to the open match midweek, and I'd arranged with Lee Kerry. It's a place we both like to go, and he said he was going, so it was nice to meet up with him there before match. And incidentally, we've drawn next to each other. I've drawn peg 7 on willows with Lee on peg 6, so it was always going to be a bit of a battle. Obviously Lee's a brilliant angler, but I fish up there quite a lot as well as him. So sat down, peg 8 framed in the match as well on the weekends, so I knew we were in a good area. And to be honest, my mindset were exactly the same as what it was on peg 1. I thought if I can get my head down, catch a few fish, keep putting them in net, you're going to be hard to beat. So once again I fed a short line, a line at 13 and 14 and a half, and I've also put one off to left and right, just in case. You've got to give yourself options. No point plumbing up during match. If you get it plumbed up to start with, then you're on to a winner. All you've got to do is drop a bit of bait in and drop on and hopefully catch a few. So it's been a steady match again. Like I say, I've caught long mainly, maggots over ground bait, just flicking odd one. It's catching roach, fruit water and on deck. And then short, later on I've had a decent skimmer. I've had a perch and an hybrid as well, so it's always worth putting them short lines in, but you don't always catch on them. Lee's caught a few fish, he's had a few skimmers, a few roach, and it was dead close between us both, and I've ended up with £15 odd. I think £15.12 I've had. I think Lee's had £15.5, so I've only just beat him, which was mega off that peg. And then Dave Armitage round on peg 9, he's had £15.8, so he just beat Lee. Ended up 2nd in match, and Dave took the section, so it was nice. I had a bit of banter with Lee throughout there, so it was really good. Then after that it was an open match. Back on willows I drew, so there's four lakes usually in on these matches. You've got alders, willows, firs and oak. Alders and willows are the main lakes that you want to be on, and then firs and oaks, they haven't been as good this year, but they can just switch on like that, so I was happy to be back on willows. Back on willows I've drawn peg 3, and just to note that willows is actually a specimen lake, so you can't actually fish it for silvers before December due to the amount of carp in there, but luckily none ever get caught. Just to note that it is paper pegged, so even though like the other day me and Leah was on peg 6 and 7, there's actually a spare peg in between you, so there's 12 pegs on the lake and they're well spread out. So when I've got to my peg, I've sat down, and when I've had a plumb around, it shallows up towards me right, like a foot, so I thought that's a good area, I'm going to fish on there for perch, short that was, and then to the left it was a bit deeper, so I had a line there as well. So I had 2 lines short and 2 lines at 13 and a half metres. Done the same as what I've done on all the other times, maggots over ground bait, long pinged maggots, and then chucked maggots short as well. I've had a good run of like decent roach short to my right hand side, and these dumpy roach, I had to wait a little bit for them, but when they arrived they were like 5 to 8 ounces, which you don't mind waiting for fish at that size. And then on the long line I've caught a few like through the water as well. And then I've had a bonus perch on the short line to the right. I've hooked it and thought it were a carp. They just hold bottom, and then all of a sudden it started moving out. I thought, oh, and it turned and I was like, oh, can't be a carp. Come up and a nice great big perch, which these are the sort of fish that you need to boost your weight up, but you can spend a lot of time looking for them. So I like just to hope that they turn up on my lines. I do put a line in sometimes for them like down the edges, but sometimes you can waste a bit of time waiting for them, and if they're going to turn up, most of the time you'll just catch them anyway. So like I say, I've had a steady day catching chunky roach, odd big perch, and I've ended up with £23 odd. And then with this I've been third in match and actually won my section. So the last 3 matches that I've actually fished on willows, I've won my section. Over at Moon, I'd love to draw it every time because it's more of a confidence thing than anything else. I know that if I draw that lake, I've got it in my head that them fish are there to be caught, and a lot of it this time of year is confidence. If you think you're going to catch them, you will catch them. Then after that we've moved on to the Open midweek, and I've bombed out totally. So I've gone and drawn peg 4 on furs, and like I said, it can be a bit iffy on this lake. There's only 2 of us on lake, so there's me on peg 4 and then opposite peg 1. This is also a paper peg lake. And whatever I did, I just couldn't get a bite. Adam come to visit me about 12:30 and I had my first bite, which was a decent skimmer, about £1.5. And I thought, oh, a few might have arrived now. No else, I've gone out on another line. I've had an hide, and then as Adam's left, I'd had another skimmer. So I've caught 3 fish, gone out, and then I've had 2 F1s running. Unluckily, like F1s and carp don't count in these matches. So I've ended up with 3 fish, which went, I think, £2.5, £3. Guy opposite me has had 3 fish as well for £1.5, but the section was actually in with Oaks, so Oaks won it with £8 odd. So like I say, there's 2 of us on lake, I've had £3 with 3 fish, bomb out. But I wasn't too disappointed because I'd like to have fished that lake, because if I draw it in an open, I'm not too bothered because it doesn't mean up. But if I were to draw it in a league, I'd go with a different mindset now and know that you're literally fishing for a few fish, which changes the amount of bait you put in at the start and how you fish it. So even though it were I didn't want to draw on there on an open, I'm glad I have, because if it comes to a league match now, I've got a bit of a better understanding about the lake. After that, I've gone back on willows, so it was a league match, and I've drawn willows peg 5, which another peg that I haven't fished on there. You've got an island in front of you at 17.5 metres, and then obviously I've fished short, fished 13, 14.5, and I have actually set up 17.5 metres to fish to the island, and believe it or not, this became my best line. Unfortunately, I had to ship that far to catch. I could have caught a bit shorter, but the stamp of roach that I was catching, you couldn't ignore at 17.5 metres. I've had a few decent fish short as well, a nice little run when I was resting my long line, and it were all about alternating lines. So I'd catch a few long, come short, catch a few, go back long. But it is hard work, but it was worth it. I've had Chris Kitchen on next peg to me, and he was battling quite well, he was beating me, then I was beating him, then he's gone down edge and he's had some perch, so I think he's had 4 or 5 perch, which like I say, they're your bonus fish. But luckily, because I've been catching these big roach long, I've managed to win my section again. So I've ended up with £28, I believe, which was enough to win section and 4th overall in the match. So another great result. That's a league. We've had 2 rounds now and I've got a perfect score of 2, and my weight will be quite well as well because I've framed in both of the matches. So yeah, that were awesome. And then the last match that I've actually fished on there was on alders. I've drawn back of alders, which people know it can be iffy, but I fish it completely different to everywhere else, but there's always a few fish to be caught. Drawn peg 23. So I've set up my lines 14.5. I like to start on here, with it being quite wide. I like to fish a bit further out. Set a short line up to the island again at 17.5 metres and a waggler. And to be honest, I've never really got going on this match. I've caught a few fish here, a few fish there, but I think because I've been used to being on willows and I've got it in my head how to catch them and keep flicking a bit of bait in, and I'm confident on there, it hasn't quite worked the same on alders. I'd like to go back and give it another go now, and I'm glad it wasn't a league match. I've ended up with 13 pound odd for about halfway in section, so it wasn't a disaster. I've learnt quite a bit, but it was one of them where it wasn't quite right on the day, and I feel that I fished it. I have not fished the perfect match, but if I went back, I know that I could catch a few more, which is always like a good thing to come away with. If you come away, you haven't caught many fish, but you don't know why you haven't caught many, it's always harder. But because I know what I've done wrong, obviously I'd like to go back and give it another go. Apart from that, I keep eating my area. Let me tuck it away. I've been down up river a couple of times, so I went down up river grayling fishing. Lovely when it gets cold, a bit of ice on ground. Love to go just trot a stick, float through, catch some grayling, something a bit different. Not a full day, just a couple of hours. Nice to get out and about. Then I've also been out with Mark Pitchers. So I know Mark quite a few years now from when I was at Matrix, and every year we tend to meet up, go for a few hours, just stick float fishing with a few maggots, getting bites, having a gossip, right nice to catch up. And then in between my matches, so I fish mainly my matches on a Saturday. On a Sunday I've been collecting the leftover bait from the Saturday and going down on the canal and just spotting practice. I like to keep my eye in, because we haven't been able to meet as Team England for a while as a group to do training sessions, obviously with lockdowns. I like to get out and just make sure that I'm keeping my eye in. One week I'll just practice distance, so literally cast a spom as far as I can in the clip, 100, 120 yards, and then the other week I'll take the marker float, shove that out and make sure I'm accurate. So I'm not only practicing my distance, practicing accuracy as well. And it's a good way to do this, because we all have leftover bait. We always mix too much ground bait this time of year as well. So I just take it all down to the canal and spot it in. It'll be booming in some of all them areas with skimmers and bream. But something that I like to do is, like I say, keep my eye in. And apart from that, that's it really. Obviously got the league to continue, so I'll keep you updated with that in January. Let you know how I get on. I'll have a few other open matches and just a bit of fishing in between. Hope you've enjoyed, and I hope you have a nice new year.